Our reservation for 7 people is accurate, and I kindly request a separate seat for a lady not included in the count. This request, typical of Elizabeth, my husband's mother, echoes her penchant for making loud demands and teasing me. However, today marks a turning point as I've resolved to expose a secret she's been keeping during our family gathering. I'm Natalie, a 28-year-old chef who graduated successfully from culinary school. I work at a highly rated Western restaurant in the city where I met George, a friendly customer who later became my husband. George inherited a historic electronics store, a beloved establishment in the community for 3 generations. Last year, George's father passed away, and he assumed the role of the third-generation owner. My upbringing was in a household filled with culinary professionals, my father, mother, and even my brother. Growing up in such an environment exposed me to various cooking techniques and knowledge from a young age. Thanks to this upbringing and my innate talent, I graduated at the top of my class from culinary school. Despite my usual reserved demeanor, I've always been confident in my culinary skills. However, after marrying George, that confidence began to waver due to our close living arrangement with Elizabeth, which started shortly after our marriage. George's decision to live with his parents, a common practice in his family, came as a surprise. I had hoped to enjoy the early days of marriage just the two of us, but George's living arrangement was not disclosed earlier. Regretting it now wouldn't change anything. Living with Elizabeth turned out better than expected initially. She was kind, buying me treats from my favorite bakery, and even took on most of the household chores. However, there was one concern: the seasoning in her meals. Each dish was excessively salty, and while I initially attributed it to her northern origins, it seemed different from the preferences of others from the same region. I have a colleague from the north who prefers a lighter salt taste, making Elizabeth's dishes stand out. For instance, her stew, with vibrant ingredients, was overshadowed by an intense sauce, making it feel like directly putting concentrated sauce in my mouth. Doubts about whether this was the standard taste lingered, and my husband's comment about adjusting the taste to be lighter than usual only intensified my inner questioning. These days, consistently consuming Elizabeth's cooking seemed to have dulled my taste buds, creating a sense of dissatisfaction, even when preparing dishes at work. Doubts about my own sense of taste crept in, but fortunately, the head chef conducted the final taste checks, ensuring no major issues. Nevertheless, the heavy seasoning in Elizabeth's daily meals became a serious concern for me. To cope with this, I devised a plan. One solution was to wake up earlier than Elizabeth and prepare my own breakfast. While this new routine prevented a decline in my work performance, it unintentionally led to a frosty attitude from Elizabeth. When I greeted her in the morning, she began to ignore my words and pass by. One evening, when I sought her opinion on a dish I had put a lot of effort into, she responded with criticism, questioning if I had seasoned it properly. Despite my explanation, she insisted it was bland, adding a significant amount of sauce to the dish. I couldn't help but feel that there might be some reason or background to her change in attitude. My husband has 2 older sisters, both of whom have established families. They welcomed me warmly from the beginning of our marriage and offered support if I ever had trouble with their mother. However, Emily, one of the sisters, had a different experience, as I helped with food preparation for her daughter's grand birthday celebration. The dining table was filled with a variety of distinctively unique and appetizing dishes. During the party, Emily's daughter expressed dislike for the stew, commenting on the heavy seasoning. When Emily suggested learning cooking tips from me, Elizabeth angrily exclaimed and left the scene, leaving me puzzled about the underlying issues in her behavior. I had some regrets about offering to help with the cooking from the beginning. The party ended abruptly amid a sour mood. While I believe Emily might have meant her words lightly, it was clear that Elizabeth had put love and effort into her dishes as well. It felt unjust for our heartfelt efforts to be belittled with a mere comment. That night, I lacked the courage to express my apologies to Elizabeth. From the next day onward, life became increasingly tough. Elizabeth would recklessly season the meals I carefully prepared, and on the worst days, she would even throw them away midway through eating. Seeking support from my husband in these trying times, I turned to him for help. However, his response was less than supportive, suggesting that maybe I had antagonized her and needed to listen more. As days passed, the strain in our marital relationship deepened. My husband started coming home late, claiming it was due to work, and even began missing family events. We were only married for half a year, so the idea of divorce felt premature. However, another hurdle emerged when Elizabeth tripped on our stairs and severely injured her leg. Despite Emily's kind offer to help with her care, Elizabeth insisted that, as the wife of the house, it was only natural for me to take care of her. This declaration changed my daily life dramatically, and attending to her needs became a relentless routine, even during work hours. Eventually, my colleagues' patience wore thin, leading me to resign from my job. When Elizabeth learned about my resignation, she seemed gleeful. From then on, my days were consumed with meeting Elizabeth's spontaneous demands at all hours, leaving my mind and body worn down. My husband's reduced presence at home added to my distress, and I began to doubt his reasons for working late. Pondering our next steps, I decided it was time to teach both Elizabeth and my husband a lesson. A few days later, during breakfast, I brought up the idea of divorce, shocking both of them. They questioned the sudden decision, expressing surprise and disbelief. My husband even suggested that my actions could tarnish our family's reputation. In response, I explained my dissatisfaction with the household environment and my determination for change. Confronted with my newfound resolve, they were taken aback. My husband apologized, expressing a willingness to be more attentive to our home life. He even suggested a break, understanding if I wanted to go to my parents for a change of pace. However, he requested that I still help Elizabeth due to her leg injury. Despite feeling disoriented, I sensed a hint of resentment in his words. I asked him to reflect on the situation, expressing my hope for positive changes if we continued to live together. I took a deep breath and calmly replied, "I'll think about it." At that moment, a smug smile appeared on their faces, revealing the evident blood ties between them. For the next few days, the atmosphere at home shifted. My husband began returning home earlier from work, but this improvement was short-lived. He soon started coming home late again, and Elizabeth's behavior reverted to its previous coldness. Despite her leg injury showing no signs of improvement, Elizabeth frequently went out without explanation. As I questioned her actions, I soon discovered a shocking truth. One day, my cell phone rang incessantly, with both my husband and Elizabeth expressing anger about me leaving Elizabeth alone. I sensed they wouldn't understand my perspective, and I revealed that I was at my parents' house. Days later, enjoying a peaceful time at my parents' house, I received an unexpected message from the one person I least wanted to be involved with, Elizabeth. The message contained an apology for her past actions and an invitation to her upcoming birthday party. Though reluctant, considering it as a bit of a luxury treat, I decided to attend. The venue for the party was an upscale restaurant near the station, renowned for a new chef trained in France. Upon arriving, I saw George and Elizabeth waiting with smug expressions. The attendees included Emily, her husband, and their children, making it a small gathering of 8 people. As we entered the restaurant, I confirmed my reservation for 7 people. However, Elizabeth requested a separate seat for me, surprising everyone. The waiter guided me to a slightly hidden seat, and as the evening progressed, the anticipated meat dish raised expectations. While delicious-smelling dishes were constantly brought to Emily's table, George and Elizabeth received none. Elizabeth's loud complaint about the delay in their food drew the attention of nearby customers, leaving me in a state of surprise and anticipation for the unfolding events of the night. I deeply apologize. The chef is preparing something special for the 2 of you, so it's taking a little extra time. Please wait for just a bit longer. Despite her annoyance, Elizabeth's face showed a hint of satisfaction, knowing they were getting special treatment. Soon after, footsteps could be heard coming from the kitchen, and their expressions froze in surprise. It was me, dressed in a chef's hat and apron. What, Natalie?